Hello everyone, welcome back to Let's Get On With It, the Ur-Quan Masters. Last episode, we bounced around for a bit. We visited Admiral Zex at his home world, which had been bestowed upon him from the Vux for all of his grand services on the war, and also to keep his perversions away from everybody else. We traveled across the map to retrieve the beast that Admiral Zex required to give us the show 16 maidens, but predictably from evil people, he decided that wasn't good enough and wanted to collect me instead. Thankfully, fortune turned in my favor, totally unpredicted, and all of a sudden I have possession of the show 60 maidens. However, I am low on fuel, and while I could have made it to Delta Gorno and even back to Sol from there, I think, the problem is that it's going to cost me fuel to do what I want to do there. So, yeah. Now, I could have actually run out of fuel. If you run completely out of fuel, the game's not over. The Mel Norme will eventually come and visit you while you're stranded in hyperspace. I don't think I've ever actually ran out of fuel before. I presume I have before, otherwise how the hell would I know that? I don't know. I know they can happen, but that's unreliable. There's only a percentage chance each day. Later on, you get a way to contact them in hyperspace to make them appear at your whim, but I don't have that just yet. So, besides, I did need to purchase the rest of the things from the Mel Norme anyway, and so this will work. And I'm putting some pressure on the situation due to some contrived time limit. The Bakunker are going to be ultimately annihilated or whatever. It's not a concern either way. I think all that matters is that sometime while the Bakunk sphere of influence is over there, I do what needs to be done. Okay? Okay. That being said, oh my god, everybody fucking panic! Alright, let's move on. So I hope you're ready to learn some information about the universe today, because we are going to learn some information about the universe. Fancy that.
Isn't this? Once again, we meet to exchange valuable tangibles. Isn't this fun? Now, what can we do for you today? What would you like to sell, Captain? Loves. What would you like to sell, Captain? Your ship's log indicates that you discovered the whereabouts of one of the rainbow worlds, which so fascinate us. In exchange, we will give you 500 credits. What trade items would you like to buy today? As you know, we carry a large supply of fuel on board, which is compatible with your engine system. We will be happy to sell this substance to you at a cost of 1 credit per fuel unit. How much fuel do you wish to purchase? Fuel transferred to your vessel. How wonderful, Captain. The Ur-Quan evolved on a harsh planet, orbiting a star outside this region of space. They were solitary predators, like your praying mantis captain, or polar bear, who had a very limited set of social behaviors, most of which dealt with sex. Since they had to compete for survival against many physically superior species, the Ur-Quan evolved intelligence and tool use in much the same way as your own species. The Ur-Quan also learned to master their fierce territoriality, to build a cooperative planetary culture. When the Ur-Quan were discovered by the Taeo, they had just begun exploring their solar system in crude atomic vehicles. Although the Ur-Quan attacked what they thought to be an invader, the Taelo were patient. They explained the purpose of the sentient milieu and offered the Ur-Quan membership. The Ur-Quan recognized the benefits that such a system provided, and once more conquered the hunting beast within themselves, to become cooperative, productive members of the milieu. This lasted for several thousands of years. Just over 20,000 years ago, when your ancestors were learning to chart the course of the moon and stars on animal horns, the sentient milieu spanned 500 light years and included the membership of 100 worlds. Like all other star travelers, they had discovered ruins and relics of a far more ancient culture, which your species calls the Precursors. Explorers from many species spent their lives trying to piece together this ancient mystery, but of all races, the Ur-Quan were the most bold adventurers. Their scouts, flying single ships, penetrated far into uncharted space and landed a million worlds. On one such mission, a young Ur-Quan made planetfall on a small, life-bearing alien world to identify some anomalous energy readings, occasionally a sign of precursor installations. Instead, the Ur-Quan found a small, hideous creature, a Dinyari. Before the scout was able to defend itself, the Dinyari creature took control of the Ur-Quan's mind and commanded the scout to place the Dinyari aboard the Ur-Quan's ship, along with hundreds of its evil brood. Then the Ur-Quan returned to the heart of the milieu, landing on its capital planet. Within hours, every resident of the planet was a Dinyari slave. Within a month, Dinyari compelled starships and spread the evil, psychic creatures across the entire milieu. When the Dinyari took control over the milieu, one race fought back, the Taelo. These slow, quiet creatures were silicon-based life forms, but bore little resemblance to the modern Genjetsu. Taelo were natural immunes to the Dinyari's psychic compulsion. They were unaffected by the creature's power, and the Dinyari would not permit anyone to exist outside their control. So they ordered the remaining races of the milieu to attack and destroy the Taelo home planet. This planet was one of the few milieu worlds located in this region of space. I believe you call their star Delta Vulpeculae. Their home was a moon revolving about the second planet. I'm sad to say that the Taelo were indeed eliminated. However, at the time of their devastation, they had completed a device which they thought would give other races psychic immunity like their own. What happened to this device, this shield? It's hard to say. Maybe it was destroyed in the attack on their homeworld. Maybe not. In the Dinyari's new empire, the Ur-Quan were the favored slaves. This is probably because the Ur-Quan were the most psychically sensitive, the most easily compelled. As the centuries of Dinyari dominance passed, what was once the sentient milieu deteriorated and degenerated into a great galactic gulag. alien races which did not serve with the efficiency and speed demanded by the Dinyare were ruthlessly burned from the faces of their worlds. The agents of this genocide were inevitably the Dinyare's favored pet, the Ur-Quan. After almost 2,500 years of unrelenting Dinyare control, there were only 4 living member races of the once great sentient milieu. By this point, the Dinyare had used genetic manipulation to split the Ur-Quan into 2 subspecies. The green Ur-Quan. Scientists, technicians, and administrators who were responsible for maintaining the limited infrastructure of the Dinyare civilization, and the black Ur-Quan, who filled the ranks of basic laborer and combat soldier. Then, a chance discovery by an Ur-Quan named Za led to the violent overthrow of the Dinyare slave empire. The Ur-Quan named Za was a green, a researcher specializing in repairing the mental damage inflicted by long-term exposure to the Dinyare's psychic compulsion. By this point in history, the Dinyare had grown lax in their dominance, and on occasion accidentally permitted their slaves moments of self-direction. Za was able to use those few scattered minutes to compose a theory. From its observations, Za realized that when a slave died, the Dinyare disconnected from the slave's mind, lest it too be dragged down to death. Further, the Ur-Quan scientist uncovered the fact that when a slave underwent great pain, the Dinyare temporarily disconnected, but that the degree of pain had to be extreme, nearly lethal. Za chose its moment carefully. It waited until it was near an open transmission unit. Then, in a short moment of mental freedom, the Ur-Quan injected itself with a dose of acidic poison, sending incredible waves of pain through its long body. In the few moments before its death, Za was able to wrest control of the transmitter to send word of its discovery across the planet and into space as well. Before the Dinyare knew what was happening, Ur-Quan everywhere were hacking at their own bodies with chunks of glass, burning themselves horribly, doing anything that would give them the few seconds of freedom necessary to find the nearest Dinyare and crush the bleeding creature. As they gained longer and longer periods of control, the Ur-Quan developed new tools and weapons to destroy their evil masters. The most gruesome of these devices was the excruciator, a mechanism which was inserted directly into the brain and generated a constant stream of agony. The Dinyare could not bring themselves to make the necessary mental connection with these tortured Ur-Quan. They were slaughtered by the thousands. The Ur-Quan slave revolt was won. When the last Ur-Quan was free of psychic compulsion when the last free Dinyare was dead. The combined might of the Ur-Quan starfleets met in orbit above the Dinyare homeworld. They had come together to make two important decisions. First, how to punish the few frightened Dinyare left below on the planet's surface. Second, how to ensure that never again would the Ur-Quan be made slaves. The first decision was made swiftly. The Dinyare would not be allowed to die. It was too kind of fate. Instead, the creatures would be genetically modified into sub-sentience. They would become dumb animals. These low creatures would be further debased by serving the Ur-Quan for all eternity in the most demeaning way the Ur-Quan could imagine, acting as translators, making physical contact with other species, whom the Ur-Quan now considered grossly inferior to themselves and revolting. The second decision, how to ensure their freedom permanently, caused great turmoil. Following the successful Ur-Quan slave revolt, the Ur-Quan met to decide how to ensure their freedom. The Green Ur-Quan, who called themselves the Kazertza in honor of the Ur-Quan who triggered the revolt, wished to establish the path of now and forever, which required that all other sentient species must become slaves of the Ur-Quan or be forever imprisoned beneath an impenetrable force shield. Leading the opposition to this plan was Korra, a charismatic fleet officer. Korra proposed a simpler alternative, the Eternal Doctrine. Simply put, this scheme called for the systematic eradication of all sentient life in the universe, aside from the Ur-Quan. Captain, if these positions seem to you extreme or unwarranted, you must remember that the Ur-Quan had been unwilling slaves for millennia, and that each of them had to remain in agony for years in order to defeat the Dinyare. The followers of Kazertza and Korra were all on the brink of madness, but neither side would submit, and so they fought a bloody civil war. This is the last historical item we have for sale. The civil war between the Green Ur-Quan, the followers of Kazertza, and their opponents, the death-dealing Korra, lasted for decades. It is likely that they would have annihilated each other were it not for a chance discovery by Kazertza, a precursor battleship. The vessel was huge, many times the size of the Ur-Quan's vessels. The precursor ship sliced through the Korra forces in days. The Korra were defeated. However, in their victory, the Kazertza were humble. They realized that there was a chance that they were wrong, and the Korra were right. Instead of destroying the Korra, the Kazertza let them go, directing them to make their way through the stars, traveling against the spin of the galaxy. The Kazertza would travel in the opposite direction, and when the two Ur-Quan forces met, they would fight again in ritual combat, with the precursor battleship given to the winner. Captain, this is happening here and now. The Gazelles are the Ur-Quan who enslaved her, are fighting their ritual battle against the Korra in a large area centered near the Craterus constellation. If the Korra win this battle, Captain, the Gazelles will stand aside and let them kill us all. We believe it is your destiny to prevent this from happening.
Oh boy. Destiny. Yay! How about that trip down a historical lane, folks? But we're not done yet.
The Zakpat pick are
We're not done yet.
co-op of 3 alien species, all native to the same world. They are presently suffering severe collateral damage from the ritual combat between the Ur-Quan and the Korra. While this is unfortunate for the Zakpat, they have been forced to abandon many of their worlds. This close proximity to the inter-Ur-Quan war will give them insights into the conflict, which will be of great use to you. In addition, the Zakpat met the Chenjesu early on in the war and are eager to make allies who can protect them from their enemies. In case you are interested, the Zakpat homeworld is at coordinates 400.0 by 543.7, Planet 1. The Ur-Rat are presently attacking the Pekunk in the Lakeli and Kruger constellations. These beings have slavish devotion to their dark gods Dogar and Kazan, which in the past few years has been used against them by the Unga. If you need to manipulate the Ur-Rat, we suggest you discover the Unga's technique and duplicate it. The Pekunk are a mystical offshoot of the Yehat species, who left their bird brothers long ago to found a peaceful enclave in the Kruger and Geitless stars. At the present time, the Pekunk are defending themselves against the Ur-Rat, who have been commanded to attack the happy birds by Dogar and Kazan. The Pekunk may be unwilling to make a formal alliance with you, but we have confidence that if you explain yourself honestly, they will help your efforts against the Ur-Quan. The creatures presently fighting the Ur-Quan are called the Korra. They are an Ur-Quan subspecies who split off from the main species many thousands of years ago. Their present fight is a ritual reenacting of a major difference of opinion between 2 rival Ur-Quan leaders after the Ur-Quan overwhelmed their slave masters, the Denai. The Korra are immune to reason, having long ago lost the ability to see their situation objectively. They live in a self-maintained paradox. To ensure their safety and security, the Korra fight an endless battle against all other sentient species. I must warn you about some very bad people. Is this worth so many credits? You ask yourself. I assure you it is. The creatures are called the Druge, and they are a callous and evil race. They care for nothing but profit and personal gain through unfair mercantile exchanges. Why are you looking at me like that, Captain? It is not appropriate. As I was saying, these wicked creatures will try to sell you commodities at unreasonably low prices. Boy, they almost give away fuel. Do not fall for their tricks. There are hidden costs, secret terrorists. So that you may avoid them, I will tell you that their main trade world is Zeta Persei 1. Why are you smiling, Captain? The Berbixies race evolved on the planet Arcturus 1. They lived there in a relatively benevolent manner until the Korra came and destroyed them during the course of 2 or 3 unfortunate days. The Druge were largely responsible for the Korra finding the Berbixies. You see, the Berbixies were in long-distance, hyperwave contact with a race known simply as the Keg. For decades, the Keg and the Berbixies traded much valuable information until the Keg came under attack by an invading race who you may know as the Korra. The Geg warned the Berbixies that the Korra located races by their hyperwave transmissions and that they had already discovered the radiations from the Druge. When the Berbixies were kind enough to warn the Druge that a hostile alien race was homing in on their hyperwave radiations, the Druge shut down all their transmitters and erected a powerful hyperwave beacon on the surface of the Berbixies moon. The Korra changed course, attacked the poor Berbixies, and sadly destroyed them all. The Tradash are an arrogant, stubborn, and thick-skinned species who reside in the Draconis and Apodus star systems. They have little or no respect for anything but force, which they admire greatly. To make the Tradash your friends, you should consider killing most, but not all of them. In addition, they guard some kind of sacred relic at the star system Zeta Draconis, though we do not know the true nature of this artifact. The Tradash homeworld is at Delta Draconis. After the war, the Chenjesku and the Mernherm chose to be slave-shielded on Chenjesu's homeworld at Procyon. We suspect that they are melding their two species to form some kind of new hybrid race, a race which may well be powerful enough to destroy the Ur-Quan single-handedly. However, by our calculations, this process will take many decades, if not centuries. Should you wish to talk to them, we recommend you invest in a hyperwave broadcasting system, which is powerful enough to penetrate the shield around their world. The Mycon are using this time, while the Ur-Quan have their attention elsewhere, to expand their sphere of influence as fast as possible. The Mycon colonize planets by launching tough spore pods from orbit and injecting them under the planet's surface. Months later, after the spores have grown hundreds of thick, fibrous tendrils under the planet's crust, the tendrils suddenly thrust up out of the planet and create huge calderas. Not incidentally, filling the planet's atmosphere with the Mycon's preferred gases, clouds of superheated steam and sulfuric acid. Following the end of the war, the Androsynth began experimenting with interdimensional fatigue, a process which is related to your faster-than-light drive, but involves dimensions far more alien than hyperspace. They had just made a major breakthrough when they were suddenly wiped out by a race called the Ors, who appeared seemingly out of nowhere. actually, we don't know what the Ors did to the Empressing. They're just all gone. The Arilulale are a mysterious race of IDF beings. IDF meaning interdimensional fatigue. They do not reside in this galaxy, or in fact, anywhere in this universe. While it is true that the Arilu are rarely seen far from the Columbae star group, they do make regular, secret visits to your world, and have done so for centuries. Ever since Earth was stayed shielded, they have focused their attention on the humans aboard the starbase, many of whom are now members of your crew. Though the Arilulale always smile and are never overtly hostile, we believe that they have a secret agenda which somehow involves your planet Earth. These secret plans may or may not cause grief and woe to you Earthlings.
Still feel comfortable, Diala? I'm just saying.
Just under 20 years ago, the brave and suicidal Shofixi annihilated their species by exploding a precursor device, some kind of bomb, in the interior of their sun. The resulting storm of solar flares cooked the life off the Shofixi homeworld, and incinerated over 100 Ur-Quan dreadnoughts which had just entered the system to conquer the Shofixi. In actuality, there are still at least a dozen Shofixi left alive in the galaxy. 1 or 2 are at Delta Gorno, guarding the dead hulk of their once beautiful world. Others can be found in Vox space. The Slilandro are a mostly non-solid, sentient race who live in a gas giant at Beta Cori. We recently sold them a self-replicating exploration probe, which has somehow turned hostile and attacks everything it detects. If such encounters have angered you, Captain, please do not address your concerns to us. We possess a formal waiver of damages authorized by Slilandro Speaker and are in no way responsible for the situation. The cowardly Spaffy live at the single planet orbiting Epsilon Grus. They do not actually live on their world, rather they reside on its airless moon. The reason? A xenomorphic species which craves the sweet-flavored flesh of the Spaffy has been transported to the surface of their planet and makes every attempt to devour the poor Spaffy. I am certain that the Spaffy would be forever in your debt if you were to eliminate these creatures from their planet. What? You fear the alien creatures will find you a treat also? Fear not. Our data reveals the beasts are not interested in your species. Should you wish to consult with the Spaffy Ruling Council, you will need to know the secret Spaffy cipher, a password, which is Huffy, Muffy, Guffy.
Spathy, Spathy, whatever. At any rate, the Melnorme are the other location by which you can get the Spathy secret cipher. Also, holy fucking shit, there's more useful data on alien races than I thought. I'm not actually going to be able to purchase it all, unless this is the last item, and we haven't covered all the races. Oh my dear lord. Looks, well. Oh well.
Like you Earthlings, when the war with the Ur-Quan was lost, the Cyrene chose to be slave-shielded. Their new world is at Betelgeuse. The Cyrene starbase is crewed by the starship commanders and crew who were decommissioned at the end of the war. Though the Cyrene hate the Ur-Quan with a vengeance, they are unlikely to offer you assistance unless you reveal to them the truth behind the tragedy of their original homeworld, Syra, which was destroyed by the birth of a Mycon Deep child a century ago.
Now that was something very useful. However, it appears, yeah. Wow, I'm done buying information. Good thing I bought fuel first.
What else?
I shall be leaving
It
now.
has
Wow. Holy crap. That was almost 36 minutes of data. Wow. Next episode, folks. Let's actually go to Delta Gorno. Holy crap.